So I've had some athletes who have dealt with hamstring issues, which is always a problem. Fixing their technique, having a good sound training program, getting them stronger the right way usually fixes a good chunk of it. I've had very good success. I had a kid a few years ago who literally would pull his hamstring every time he sprinted, every time. And I didn't really train him per se. Then I started working with them, and we just did a lot of our technical models and really repositioned, really went over hip lock. That was a big breakthrough for him because he stopped casting out and overstriding. And I put him on a very basic weight program, 4 exercises, very simple. The kid did great, ran his senior year, wound up walking on and running at a Division I college.
This is, I guess, technically round 2 for us, Steve, because we did all the old archive episodes from the first iteration of the podcast are live. They do exist.
Yeah.
But let's do this to start, because it's how I typically start. I know people can go back and listen to the first episode of Steve Leo, but hit us with who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Great. Well, Casey, thanks for having me again. So I've been around a while. I've been with Parisi now. It's coming up on close to 30 years, which is crazy to say. So late 90s, around 96, 97, I met Bill. We developed relationships, was an intern. Long story short, worked in all the facilities, Wyckoff, Midland Park, Fairlawn, onto Morris Plains. So I did every role from trainer all the way to program director. I've actually had my own facility. I had that for about 8 years. And along that little journey, I started teaching at a private high school. I taught anatomy, physiology, exercise science, was a head strength coach, was a head track coach there, was coaching track prior to that for a club team. Fast forward to now, I was coaching at a D3 school for the last couple of years. I had a couple All-Americans and another D3 school right down the road, Fairleigh Dickinson University in Florham, New Jersey. Just hired him. I'm now the head coach there. And I'm still teaching. I'm not teaching at the school anymore. I'm actually teaching anatomy physiology at the Parisi Academy, which is the 8th grade reclass academy. So I'm doing that. That's kind of my day job too, right? That's 2 days a week working with the 8th graders. And then I'm a full-time head track and field coach, and I'm still doing a lot of our certifications, which I forgot to mention. We're still doing all those, still running, doing a lot of our education as well. So my plate is full as usual.
Your plate has never been less, right? Like, it's crazy how it just finds more stuff. Before we jump in, this is a question that and just so people know, Steve and I, and all of our podcast episodes, I don't think we've ever sent notes or talking points to each other. So Steve is a gift, because he has I tell him a general theme. He has no idea what the questions are. And it's going to be a total vibe. But Steve, before we jump in, what is one thing about you as a coach that people might find surprising?
That I'm actually really nice with the kids. I think some people see me and they see my face when I'm training, and I think I'm really intense and focused, which I am, but I don't think they realize that I probably am a little bit more Ted Lasso than I am Vince Lombardi. Believe it or not.
You definitely have an intensity and passion. Like I would say, intensity that drives from passion about the topics, right? Like about training itself. But you are incredibly approachable. I think that's like, you can have the conversation. I remember when I first met you, you can pull you aside and like talk shop a little bit. You can ask a question and not feel stupid. But then when like Steve's on the training floor, it's like, buckle up, put your hard hat on, because it's about to get real. But it's out of passion. It's not like it's not a drill sergeant type.
No, and I think to explain that more, I learned this a long time ago, and then maybe this will help a lot of coaches out there. I was at a coaching clinic. This is 25 years ago, and I don't remember the coach. I wish I did. But they said coaches are thermostats, and your job is to adjust the temperature of the athlete. So if the athlete is cold, like not with it, your job is to crank the heat up and get them heated up. And then you have the other side of it. If they're too hot, your job is to cool them down a little bit. So I take that approach every day when I'm on the floor or I'm on the track. My job is to regulate where my athletes are at. My opinion is you can't go in there hot every day, because if they're not ready for that or they're not in the right mood, you're not going to mesh. It's not going to work. And vice versa. I can't go in there cold and expect them to rise to the occasion. So I'm taking their temperature the second I walk out into the track with them. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, where are they today? especially now that I've been in a collegiate setting and I've worked in a high school setting. I have my athletes every single day. That's 5-6 days a week. We spend a ton of time together. So knowing your athletes, and we say this all the time, but knowing your athletes and what makes them tick is so important. Are they having a bad day? Are they stressed about tryouts, or they're not getting recruited? Like, all of that matters, guys. Like, that just matters. I don't care how much I know about fast claws and top speed and all that. If I can't get them to buy in when the session starts, well, that's not going to matter. And then I want to show them that I'm as into it as they are, right? So if I'm not in it with them, like I'm here almost working out with them, although I'm not doing all the drills, but if I'm working out with it, I think they feel that and they feed off of it. That's just been my approach. I don't feel like I'm there just barking orders. And listen, we've seen it, coaches that fold their arms and just kind of say, okay, go. Like, there's nothing that drives me more nuts than when I see that. So hopefully that explains kind of
that makes sense.
weirdness.
I've never heard you say that quote before, but that makes total sense. Just thinking about how you interact, how you coach, how you train, like that. I see that. I absolutely see that. See, I'm still learning new stuff every conversation. So Steve, we're going to play a game. It's called Overrated, Underrated, or Properly Rated. I'm going to bring up a training tool, training trend, a training method, and I would love to hear your thoughts. And then I'm sure we'll explain like a little context as to why, because there's always context, and we can get away with that in a podcast where it's going to be a little bit longer conversation. So, all right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
You're so ready. Sprint sleds and or resisted sprinting, overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
I bet you they're underrated.
Oh, what makes you say that?
And the reason why I say this, well, I don't think people necessarily know why they're good. I think they just use them because it's overload, right? And I think if people truly understood the benefits and how to program them the right way, they would use them even more. I will say for myself, I use them a ton. I mean, sleds and bands, it's part of my training program year round. I think it's just getting people to understand how to use them the right way. So, for example, with sleds, there's always a debate, heavy versus light, and I get all that. I just will always say I categorize it. So if I'm doing a speed day, acceleration, top speed, whatever, it's going to be a lighter version based upon their times in those sprints, 10, 20s, whatever. So I time them. If their 10 is a 2.0 second, if I load them and it's now a 2.7, I overloaded them too much. And that goes for any sprint. And I give them good rest time in between. And to me, that's a speed day. If you're going to go heavy, 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 that might be more, I'll call it a strength day, even though it might be on the turf or the track, and I'm going to overload, but I'm going to max effort overload. So if you think of like West Side Barbell, max effort day, dynamic day, that's kind of how I would do the bands as well. I think sometimes we fall in the middle and we overload them just a little bit too much, but it's not enough to be a full overload, but it's not enough to be, or it's too much to be a speed day, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense.
That's how I categorize it. So I'm going to tell guys, hey, today's a heavy day. So it's going to be a day where they're going to either lift maybe before or after a session. That might be our heavy sled day. If it's going to be a true speed day, then I don't want to overload them as much because I want that speed to be high. I want to reduce their ground contact time. I want to get their stride length. I want to see the hip projection to be a lot better. And I know there's a good stimulus if you heavy load them. So if you heavy load them a lot and then they do free sprints after, I think that can work as well too. But I think overloaded sprints, I mean, there's probably nothing better besides putting them on an overspeed treadmill or a woodway or something.
Wow. So and that's a consideration that I want to just bring up. Like if you're a coach, right, like a strength coach or a speed coach, performance coach, you're getting kids, or even a sport coach, and you're getting kids after like second in the weight room or for speed training.
Yeah.
Would it be better to just go heavier, knowing they probably are coming in with some level of fatigue and you're not going to get necessarily your best speed effort? I know it depends. I know it depends, but
I know that's always the worst word.
Yeah.
Depends, right? But I would say it depends on what you were going to do with them that day. So if you were doing a strength day with them, I mean, load the heck out of them because that's good. I think if you're doing like a max speed day, they're probably, if they are coming in fatigued, I probably wouldn't even overload them at that point because I want them to move at a high velocity. So I think it's just a matter of how fatigued they are. And when I say fatigue, how much action did their legs get in whatever session they did prior? If they just came from a practice, they're probably okay. I doubt they got crushed in that practice. Even basketball and lacrosse, they don't run. I mean, they run, but they're not also doing gassers and things at the end.
Yeah.
But I just want to see, the treads in a tire, so to speak, like where are they at, and then go. But you can modify too, because if you think about it, you can section off that session. If you're doing a good warm up, you're doing some mechanical work, then it might only be 15 minutes of true high speed or high interval type sprinting. Usually they can handle it, and you can just cut down on the volume. But again, two things are going to have to happen. One, coach's eye. How do they look? What's the breakdown look like? And then two, time them. I mean, there's nothing better than timing kids, because then you'll know where they're at. If they're near where they should be, then you know they're good. If they're timed to drop it off tremendously, try recovery first. If better recoveries don't work, then okay, then maybe we just need to have more technical day today, and that's okay.
Oh, you just hit me with a great segue into one of the next overrated, underrateds. In the growing push for data-driven coaching, right? So like tech, I think of all the different tech that is now more than ever readily available at affordable price points.
Yep.
Do you think, one, overrated, underrated, properly rated, but also, I'm going to put a little tangent in there, do you think the data-driven element is helping coaches gain clarity, or are we losing touch with like the basic fundamentals, your coaching eye? Like where does it sit now for you? Because you've seen it all.
I think it's going to be both, because I think it's important. I think the data is good because it quantifies what you're doing. It also gives greater intent and what's the word I want to use? Just openness to the athlete. They know where they're at. But what I can see happening is people are using it as a crutch, and now they're not coaching because they're relying so much on whether the digital devices or the data, and they're letting that coach them. And there are things out there that people do that. So I think you have to find the right balance. And my advice would be, don't always be data driven. Be data driven at certain points in a training program. So for example, like we do at Parisi's and I even do in track, you time them, right? You're doing some type of time trial, evaluation, assessment at the beginning of their training. And then you spot it out over time every 2, 4, 6 weeks, whatever it is, and you retime them again. I think if you're constantly timing all the time to get them a PR or whatever, we know that's not going to happen. And that could have a negative effect as well, right? Because now what's going to happen to the athlete? They're going to get frustrated. And we know they can't constantly just get better. And especially if they're starting a weight program with us, and they're playing a sport, say they're playing a club team or whatever, are their still legs a little bit tired? So I think if you do it the right way, and also you can use it within your training sessions. Like if you're doing an acceleration session that day, why not break the timers out in times and tens and make it somewhat more competitive? I think that's where it's good too, because now it drives intent. It's a motivational factor. But from a coaching standpoint, if you're sitting at your desk at night, okay, now we can look at what's working in the program, what's not working, what are the trends. I would do it with my staff all the time when I was, a manager and an owner. We look at our evaluations and we did like our cat club days or whatever, and we'd see, okay, where were the trends? Where did the kids not get better? And maybe 1 month it was vertical jump. Maybe another month it was 5-10-5. Then we would go back to our programs and see what were we doing. And we would notice, we maybe didn't spend enough time on a certain area, or we spent too much time in another area. Maybe the lifts were too much. Maybe the volume was too high. So I think you have to use it the right way. I think just having data is great, but then what are you going to do with it? It's what I would always say.
I like that. I like that second half of the question. What are you going to do with it? It's cool to have it, but what are you going to do with it? I think in both is so properly rated, right? Like, so I think it's totally fair to go both. It's totally fair because we got the content.
Okay.
Mini hurdles, wickets, and agility ladders. Overrated. I know they're three very different things, but overrated or underrated or properly rated. We can break them down individually if you need to.
Yeah, because I'm going to say underrated, and that probably surprises you.
I agree with that. I agree. I think, and I got into an internet debate on agility ladders 2 days ago.
Well, because people just love to bash them, right? And it's easy to bash. I'll start with agility ladders, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it from the context of an agility ladder, which probably take that term out, agility, if you look from the context that's a low-level plyometric or low-amplitude plyometric, it's a phenomenal tool.
Amazing tool.
It's a great tool. Will it fix the kid's footwork? Maybe not. But if you're teaching low-level plyos, unilateral, bilateral type movements that you need to teach athletes and learning patterns, especially when you're dealing with a young athlete, they need a pattern to follow. I think it's phenomenal, right? And I used it forever. I used it with pro athletes. I mean, one of the pictures behind me, I was training the Jets on their lockout. We did ladder drills with their linemen, and they loved it. So I think they work great. As far as the mini hurdles go, I have a million of them in my garage and shed. You're using wickets the right way are a phenomenal teaching tool. When we talk about external versus internal cues, it's one of the best external cues to really fix posture, frontside mechanics, foot placement, really learning how to strike below your center of mass. It's not a high knee drill. So I think that's where it always gets misconstrued because people just set them up and they run through them. And knowing how to measure the right way for your athlete. You could have, 4, 6, 8 different rows of wickets with different lengths depending on the ability of the athlete, not just the height. Because sometimes they'll say, well, I have a tall athlete, I want to further apart. Well, I don't want to teach them to reach. I'm teaching them to strike and attack from above, attack the ground from above, and project their hips out to that next hurdle. So if they're crushing them first, great. Then you know that it's too short of a hurdle spacing or a wicket spacing. You can move them to the higher end ones. And what I will typically do is I'll start every athlete in the lowest version, and then I work them through, and they'll hit a certain point when now they're starting to reach. We know we found that's the right one. Okay, we're going to stay here. We're going to focus on hip projection and really, for a lot of them, correct frontside mechanics, not get them to do high knees. Because if they become a high knee sprinter, then they don't apply force. And typically they will overstride or have sometimes even like a longer recovery phase. But I think wickets are amazing. They've done the right way.
Wickets are one of the most underrated and underappreciated speed tools in all of speed training.
I just don't think people understand how to use them. And I think that's the issue. They just set them up, and I love it because you'll see one coach set it up and they'll measure their feet, and I'll see another coach. I'm like, well, if you have different sizes feet, I don't really know what you're doing there. But they made it measured. I'm not saying they did, but
it's like it's for the athletes too. Like it's not necessarily based off of. It's not necessarily a one size fits all wicket length.
No,
right? Like if you have different length athletes, different speed abilities, it's different.
Yeah, like we have it in our portal. I have all our wicket spacings on there. What I did, if anyone's a track geek like me, you go look up Vince Anderson wicket drills. Vince Anderson was at Texas A&M forever, legend. Like he's Hall of Fame track coach. He really refined what those are. Go download. You can get on the internet right now. Download it. Probably ChatGPT at this point, and it'll give you all the different spacings, but they're very intricate. So what I did is I took a lot of them and just condensed them down to about 4 versions, like a beginner, intermediate, advanced, and like high level. And that typically will work well because there's a timing and a space factor too. But typically you'll start out at about 4 to 4.5 feet per, and it can go all the way up to almost like 7 feet in between. But the other key is the run-in. A lot of people will start at the hurdle. Well, if you have no, like our kids say all the time, momentum behind you, if you have no acceleration, you can't hit that hurdle at the right speed, or get over the hurdle at that right speed, and you're not going to get the projection that you want to get throughout it. And then they're going to do, I call the lawnmower, they're just going to run through them and just kick all the hurdles all over. And all that measurement you did is out the window.
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
So other advice is chalk it out, tape it out too, because someone's going to kick it and it's going to go flying. So just make sure you do that. I chalk it first. I invested in a wheel. I have a nice wheel. You're going to laugh. Digital.
No, it makes sense.
It makes life easier.
It's especially if you have to set up and tear down and set up and tear down, like that is the stuff that just saves your headaches.
Yeah. But use them the right way and it really will help. And people say, well, it's only max speed. No, it's not. It's teaching acceleration as well. I know the angle's not there, but still learning how to attack the ground below your center mass is an important attribute that most athletes struggle with. That's why you do things like skipping and marching and all that. Those are the reasons why you do them. You don't just do them to warm up, right? They really need to learn where their posture is, where they're attacking the ground, and they need to start feeling what that projection is like. It doesn't matter what angle they're at. It could be at an 80 or 90 degree. It could be at a 45. But typically to teach an athlete, you have to teach them in an upright stance first. Trying to teach acceleration day one usually doesn't go too well for a 12 or 13-year-old. But if you teach them posture mechanics and understanding where they are and how they hopefully don't leak energy, and going back to the ladder drills, it's a great way to teach stiffness in the foot, in the ankle complex, in the lower shank. It really teaches that. If you want to use barefoot work, ladder drills are a great time to do barefoot work because they're not high-level plyometrics. The risk of injury is pretty minimal at that point, and they really feel the ground. They really start developing that lower leg and foot and getting all those areas a lot stronger. So, I mean, I still do them to this day. I think they're great. I just don't. What people have to realize is anything you use equipment-wise, it's not the panacea. It's not going to fix everything. They're great training tools. And other things, you have to stimulate the kids once in a while. Let them have a little bit of fun. I've done it with track athletes. We've done ladder drills for a warm-up. And they're like, well, we're not soccer players. I'm like, I know, but let's just change it up once in a while. Let's change your context of what you've been looking at for the past 6 months. You know, they need to have a little bit of fun once in a while too, guys. It's not just about scientifically what works. And let's be honest, show me all that science. I don't know where it is.
All over the place. I'm pretty sure you can find science that, because shameless plug, we do 2 research reviews every month in the All Access drop. Parisi All Access, check it out. Maybe the best $19 a month you'll ever spend. You can find research that proves or disproves anything.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want to find a ladder, like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you don't want to find a ladder drill that says it's going to shorten stride length and it's going to make you slower, great. But you can find the same level research that says it improves ground contact time, which has a positive carryover to sprinting.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is your science on Instagram? Like, is that your science? You know, at the end of the day,
I have a social media question here for you.
But at the end of the day, if you have sound principles of what you're trying to accomplish, these are just tools that you're using to accomplish that. And your coaching eye has to take over. If they're butchering it and it's not working well, then great. Guys, don't be afraid to scrap it too. I still do to this day. I've been in training sessions, and we all know we write it out like this is going to be the best. We get out there, we're like, oh boy, that was a disaster. So cut it off, cut your losses. I'm like, go get water, take a breather for a minute. Let's regroup. They're athletes. They're humans. This is what I try. When I address my athletes, that's what I was saying about like the Ted Lasso versus the Vince Lombardi. You have to treat them as humans first and understand what they're going through. And then you can implement this other stuff. I think sometimes we try to just throw all of this upon them and think, well, this is all cutting edge. It's going to work. Well, maybe or maybe not.
I don't know about that. The whole cutting edge, like my latest rabbit hole has been this whole concept of complexity versus like actual like skill acquisition. Like where do those cross between you're
100% right.
Too hard that the athlete can't do versus giving. We always have the strength program adage, like a shitty program done with good intent will get better results than the best program done half-assed. Speed training, it's in the same boat, right? Like you've always said, if you're running fast, if you're running with hard, fast intent, you will probably get faster regardless of what you do.
Yes. I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world.
Steve Leo quote.
It's the simplest thing in the world. If you're not sprinting at 90% or plus, you're not sprinting. So if you just do sprint work,
we're gonna go with Steve. This podcast was almost things Steve Leo said that will piss off everyone. We'll do that another episode.
That's fine. Listen.
Steve Leo quotes.
I'd be more than happy. That's what
I know.
I'll go to the mat on that one. I mean, you have to sprint harder. And then, listen, you got to be smart about it. You're not sprinting hard 6 days a week because the kids are coming and training with coaches or training at 2 or 3. They should be able to handle it. If they're not, something's wrong, right? What's going on? And are they dealing with an injury or whatever? Yeah, that's a different animal. Deal with it. But if you don't train at high velocities, how are you going to get better? Think about baseball pitchers right now. If you look at how many guys in MLB are throwing over 100 miles an hour, did they get there by just lobbing the ball in practice? I think they practice throwing pretty hard. Yeah. Now, again, I know there's a lot of arm injuries and stuff happening. That's a whole nother conversation. But if you look at the track and field world and you look at the combines, the speeds these guys are running are insane. And it's not because of cutting edge stuff. We're just better at these programs.
Do you think there's, like, we talk about, like, you just kind of, and this is a total tangent now, but UCL injuries in baseball, people are throwing 100 miles more than ever, harder than ever. In all sports, right? Like basketball, soccer, whatever, like athletes are running faster than ever, but it seems like there is more of a prevalence of like hamstrings, Achilles, like connective tissue tendinous issues. Do you think, I know it's like one of those, we can't prove this, but do you think it's related to just athletes being better than what their bodies can physically handle over time?
I think that's part of it, but I think the other part is they're just doing a ton now, right? They're not just training with one of us 2 or 3 days a week. They're playing on 2 club lacrosse teams. They're weight training 3-4 days a week. I just don't think they get enough recovery time in between hard training sessions. And, it's a ticking time bomb at some point. I think a lot of times the injuries you're getting are not an acute injury where it happened on the spot. I think it was happening over time, and then just something finally set it off. And it's hard to do, right? Because every athlete is training. They're playing multiple sports or one sport year round, and they're trying to get recruited. So it's the old American adage, more is better, right? And I think it's, as coaches, we have to find a way to give them those recovery times. Like I said, maybe when they train with you, it could be more of a technically based day, or the sprints they do are just a lower volume of sprints. I remember I'd be when we were in Fairlawn, we'd run 10s, stuff like that. They would never run more than 3 or 4 40s in a day ever, because I was fearful of, now as they fatigue, soft tissue injuries can occur when they fatigue or have bad technique, right? And Bill talks a lot about it when we talk about fascia. I think that's another factor that if we can figure that part out of how the fascia is incorporated in that soft tissue, because I think sometimes they get, and this is the term I've kind of come up with, like a fascia reaction in the muscle, not necessarily a muscle pull. Because I've had athletes where they constantly have quad or hamstring pain. They get tested, they get MRI, nothing. There's nothing there. And I think what happens is when they move at a high velocity, because that sensory organ is so sensitive, I think it almost just kind of is like a blocking mechanism, and it locks them up and they can't move. And then usually a few days later, they're fine. They're like, how do you feel? I don't feel it at all. And then they sprint, oh, I feel it now. So that's just one of my crazy theories.
Like quasi-protective tension, right?
I think so. I don't know what you think
like
about
that. I think that we know nothing about the human body. Like, that's what I think. Like,
what do you think? You know something? You don't know something.
Yeah. It's crazy to me how little we know, because you do see cases like you're saying where an athlete or a group of athletes or a number of athletes over time will say a certain thing, describe something in a certain way. But you're saying, like, in our testing capabilities, ultrasound, MRI, it's not what we think as far as like a strain, a tendon tear, whatever. It's just, I don't know, neurologically, like, when you talk about like stuff like that, like sensory organs, and just, we know nothing, especially when it comes to
and that's hard to
find side of the body.
The one thing I will say, because I've had, we've all dealt with this. I've had some athletes who have dealt with hamstring issues, which is always a problem. Fixing their technique, having a good sound training program, getting them stronger the right way usually fixes a good chunk of it. I've had very good success. I had a kid a few years ago who literally would pull his hamstring every time he sprinted, every time. And I didn't really train him per se. Then somebody else was working with him. I started working with them, and we just did a lot of our technical models and really repositioned, really went over hip lock. That was a big breakthrough for him because he stopped casting out and overstriding. And I put him on a very basic weight program. It was trap bar deadlift, step ups, sled pulls, and reverse hyperextensions. Like, that's it, 4 exercises. Very simple. The kid did great. Ran his senior year, wound up walking on and running at a Division I college. And 2 years before, thought he would never run ever. And he walked on and made a Division I team. And not rocket science sometimes. What's that?
Okay, so I said it's because his hamstrings blows up every time.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. But, but he wants everybody. So, yeah, sorry.
Do you want to go strength or do you want to go conditioning?
Conditioning. That's always a fun one. I don't want the strength guys yelling at me.
Great.
All the big strength guys are gonna get online and just scream at me. So conditioning, I like. It's fun because
who knows? You might be, if we'll see how the reaction of this goes. You might be the best thing for clicks we've done. So if we can get more provocative Steve Leo statements, we might be doing a round 2 really quick.
I'm sure I'll know somebody.
The comment section might pop off, which is good for the views. We love that. Yeah. Tempo runs and conditioning work for speed athletes, misused or essential?
I think they're misused because they can be useful, but people just don't know how to use them the right way.
What would it look like if you were a speed-based athlete? What would something like quote unquote conditioning look like?
Well, I mean, it depends on the athlete, right? So if we want to talk like a short field athlete, which is like, say, football or even like soccer, lacrosse with a transition, you can do some of that work. And the reason why I would do it, I wouldn't do it as for a speed outcome. I would do it more from a technical model. Get them to be able to run 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, 100 teaching them the technique, and that's the tempo. Now, my outcome is not going to be speed. Down the road, speed will be the outcome. But they have to learn to run it at a modified velocity before they can run sometimes at a high velocity. I know I said before, if you're not running at 9%, you're not sprinting. But part of the lead up to that is they need to run maybe at some slower speeds to fix some of the technical components that might be off. And then it also can be used a little bit like conditioning, because the simplest way of doing it is you just shorten their rest periods, right? It's pretty simple to do that. Now, if you're dealing with a track athlete who's mid-distance to distance, then you have to figure out, okay, what percentages do you want them to run it? And then that's kind of a different animal. I don't know if it's necessarily conditioning. I'm going to call it, I like speed endurance, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to run at higher velocities for longer periods of time. So I think it's important that they run them. Now, when we get to that point, it's not necessarily tempos. It's different endurance levels, whether it be special endurance versus intensive endurance. And that's really based upon what their times were prior. And then you can do if you want to call it conditioning for the day. Like I had a session today with my athletes, and we did kind of an old school ladder. We did an 800, 1600, 3200, 1600, 800 with a 3-minute rest in between. I know you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, because you're running that at fast, right? Like there's no like percentage based down. It's fast.
It's fast. And just so you know how I give them the percentages, it's just based on what their times were last time. And I just add a little bit to it or take away a little bit from it. But to give an example, we were doing 5-minute rest periods beginning. Now we were down to 2 minutes last week, rest periods in between those. Think about that for a minute. And then today I bumped it up to 3-minute rest. So just give you an idea, today it was 800, 3-minute rest, 1600, 3-minute rest, 3200, 3-minute rest, 1600, 3-minute rest, and then an 800. And the target times I gave them, they, for the most part, were hitting them. And that's showing me that the training is working for them. Now, if they didn't hit them, that's my fault as a coach, not the kid's fault. I think coaches, they'll take it out on the kid and just run them again because they didn't hit the certain times. I don't do that. I try to figure out, okay, what's happening here? Like, one girl was struggling a little bit today, but she's also coming off being sick for a week. But going back to the question, I think tempo can be used for conditioning. If you go too slow all the time, you're not going to get the speed outcome that you're looking for. But you can use the tempo work to fix their mechanics to hopefully get a speed outcome down the road. Hope that makes sense.
No, it does. Just for context, that ladder workout you referenced, what group of, what distance runner? You said mid-distance?
These are cross-country runners, yeah. So they're, these are longer distance.
So cross-country, okay.
But I will say a chunk of these kids on my team, like the event who I'm working with, they are crossover athletes. Some of them are sprinters that are doing cross-country to run mid-distance. And I think we shy away from some distance work with kids because we're worried, they're going to run slow. Well, just because you're running maybe a slower velocity doesn't mean the intensity is slower or lower, right? When a kid has to run an 800 or run for 2 minutes straight, they're running pretty hard. So I think it's important that if you have athletes who you work with that are those transitional sport athletes, like the soccer, lacrosse type kids, right? And what do the coaches always want? They want those kids to run 3, 4, 5 miles to get in shape. I get it, they're going to run that in a game, but what intensities are they running them at? So why can't I run 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, hard sprints with them on a self-propelled treadmill, on a turf, whatever, and see how they react from it? And because they're going to need that. And sometimes you need to run just a little bit beyond what you would normally run. A little bit, not a lot. Like, I'm not saying, hey, if a kid's a 100-meter runner or if a kid's a football player, I'm not making him run a mile. Like, that doesn't work for that kid. But if I have a football player, I'm going to get him to run 75 yards, 100 yards a couple times a session. Because what if he has to do it in a game? If I don't ever train them in practice or in a session or whatever at what I want them to do in competition, they're never going to do it in competition.
Right? Or they're going to get busted up when they do have to do it in competition.
I'll get caught from behind, right? Watch NFL this weekend. Someone's going to hopefully get a pick six or whatever. How many times do you see the guys just fall apart, right? And then somebody catches them, right? They just everything's
it happens. Yeah. Or they go down
yards.
with a busted hamstring. They go down with a busted calf. They go down with a busted Achilles, whatever.
They just run out of it. It looks like they're just tripping over themselves and they fall. Well, they probably haven't run. I'm not saying that a lineman in NFL has to run, 100 yards or 200 yards all the time, but they should be able to kind of complete it not without falling apart, and it doesn't take a lot, but I know everyone's afraid of someone getting hurt. I'd be more afraid if I didn't do it that they might get hurt.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when we take a generalized principle to an individual concept, right? Like the individual sport, the individual player, the individual position, and then it's this generalized concept because it's always half true, half wrong,
Yeah.
right? Like it's partially, it's tough, and that's where I think social media can be tough. I think that's where if you're learning like if you're learning speed ideology from a strength training you know, person who's like super well known in strength training. I don't know. Like if you're just learning it from the wrong people with no practical approach they haven't actually trained anyone, you're not getting the whole story, and it just does yourself a disservice. That's why we try to keep it pretty sports performance based here, because we got people who actually train people on the pod.
Yeah. And I think honestly the biggest thing is we make everything absolute. Everything's not absolute. You can't. I mean, now again, you'll see on Instagram, whatever, and I love social media. I think it's been a phenomenal portal. I've learned a ton on there from people. But when people get on there and have kind of the whatever you want to call it, the talking head, and they're like, "This is the only way to do something," I cringe. I'm like, you can't. Come on, who says that?
Yeah, that's the agility ladder thing, right? Where it's like this is a trash tool. Like, no, it's not. It might be trash for some things, but it's exceptional for others, right? What is it like? It's like with the Jefferson curl in the weight room, like one man's crappy RDL is another man's injury prevention. Like it's all whatever.
Your job as a coach is to figure out what works for your kids, not what works for the whole world. Like that's not our job.
Steve, for college athletes, what's the most overrated part of their training culture right now?
For college athletes training,
you've been in 2 colleges now. I know one you've been in literally this Fairleigh Dickinson for 2 weeks, but you've been around enough college athletes in your life. Like, what do you think is the most overrated part of collegiate training culture?
It's probably lifting. When I say lifting, their idea of what lifting should be. They think it's very bodybuilding based, because if you look online, everyone is trying to do a lot of like bodybuilding stuff, right? They just try to do stuff like that. So I think when I work with the kids, they're like, I want to, they're trying to do like a chest and tries and back and buys type program, right? So I just laugh at them. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, you don't need that. And they don't need to lift as much, because the problem is they want to look good in the mirror. And I get that, but I think there's definitely a disconnect with a lot of athletes when they get to the collegiate level of what strength training is for performance. And that's what I always try to tell them. I'm like, you're trying to get better for your sport. You're not trying to look good on the beach. If that happens, hey, I think that's awesome. But I think we really need to understand that.
Yeah, it's always interesting because I think strength coaches at the collegiate level obviously get paid on producing results, which is my athletes got stronger at X, Y, and Z lifts, which is, I think, unfortunate, because I know, like, for speed, you've always kind of taught me this, like, you just need to be strong enough to be fast. You can hit a point where you can get too strong and get slower.
It's diminishing returns at that point. And to your point, strength coaches are important. And I know some strength coaches, unfortunately, have to deal with kids that have their own ideas in their head. And I'm like, no, trust the strength coach. That's their job, right? They're trying to figure out what program works. And they may have a program for your team. Now, the great ones are the ones that can figure, oh, yeah, I have a program for this team, but I also will know how to make tweaks and adjustments for kids that might need it. That, to me, is then you're an exceptional strength coach at that point. It's easy to throw a plan out there and stand in a weight room and watch kids bench press and deadlift. Like, that does not take a lot of talent to do that. Well, what takes talent is the progression and how they're getting better, right, and going from there. So,
yeah. Okay. What is a tool or method that seems to be properly rated right now, meaning it's getting some attention and it's deserved? It's kind of a weird way to ask.
I'm just trying to think through all the stuff. There's so much stuff out there now. I think, going back to your data, I think the timing equipment has been tremendous now. How many more options you have in timing equipment, and there's so many different things out there. Like, we're working with Vald, who I've been blown away with, not just from a timing standpoint, but how much education they put behind it. But I think the accessibility, like you said, to timing equipment has been amazing, and what you can do with it, right? And how mobile it is now compared to what it was before. And you can extract a ton of data from it. So I think the time increment right now for me is what I've been kind of geeking out on. I really like it. And I guess the other thing to kind of go with that is some of the velocity base. We're partnered with Output, who does an excellent job. I love their product as well, and that can also add to your data driven, because that does verticals, that can do RSI. So I think a combo of those two really, really can help you in your program, but you still got to coach. So I just don't ever want to lose sight of that. So I just spot it, is what I'm saying. If you're doing it every single day, I think it loses its value a little bit.
I got three last questions. Two kind of serious. One is on the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
If you had to pick one underrated speed drill to take with you to a desert island, what would it be?
Underrated speed drill?
Pick one, baby. Take one underrated speed drill with you forever.
Well, it's like asking, like, who's my favorite kid when I ask that.
Kinda. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see where you go with it.
I'm gonna go this way because I think it's a little more universal. I would say any type of flying sprint, flying 10s, flying 20s, flying 30s, because it's very easy to apply, and you get a good bang for your buck, right? So it's not a technical drill, but it's an intentional drill. Hopefully they've had some, good technique before that. But I think flying sprints, going back to your point about I talked about the timers, and incorporating those are game changers. If you really understand how to use those, your kids are going to get better. Yeah.
Is that a Mount Rushmore?
Oh,
is that on the Mount Rushmore? Yeah.
I'm not yet. Flying sprints, and the other one is ins and outs, which is a version of a flying sprint. Where
you go like out fast. I think it's like you go out like 20 yards apart. You go out fast in slow, or vice versa.
Yeah, you can do it either way. Usually they go in slow. So basically 20-yard run in, 20-yard fly, 20-yard coast, 20-yard fly, 20-yard coast, 20-yard fly. Or maybe I did the math on that wrong, but yeah. Those are just amazing drills, because it teaches kids how to turn things on when they have to, and can they hit the positions that you want them to hit when they have to turn it on. Like a soccer lacrosse player is not in a stance when they have to take off. They're taking off on the run. So I always coach, hit the position. That means get to the good posture position, get your arms going, strike below your center of mass, like all of that while you're moving. It's easy to do when you're moving slow, like a skip or a march. So I would say flying sprints and ins and outs are just tremendous.
Oh, I like that. I feel like this might be the most useful podcast we've ever done. I'm just saying there's a lot of gems here. Next question. What is a piece of advice you think most athletes overlook when it comes to running faster? And it could be what coaches overlook too. I'm sure they go hand in hand to an extent.
When they're running, I mean, you say while they're sprinting, or like their approach to it?
Just like their approach, right? Hey, I want to run faster. What's one piece of advice that you think gets overlooked?
They don't rest enough in between sets.
Oh,
they just want to go. And going back to your conditioning question, they want to do it. And one of the simplest ways I found out, most athletes are wearing an Apple Watch, a Garmin watch, or whatever. I'm like, look at your heart rate. If your heart rate comes down a little bit, that means you're fresh, you're ready to go. If it's still up really high, wait. It's kind of the simplest way of doing it. But they don't rest enough.
Do you do a lot of heart rate checks with your athletes?
I don't do a ton, but I use it as my gauge for their recovery periods. So I'll just say, hey, what's your heart rate at? And I'll say 170. I'm like, all right, you need more time. If it gets down to like 120, I'm like, you might need a little more time there. Don't be nice about it.
It's at 170. You need some more time.
Yeah.
They're like, 170, coach.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want, because listen, they're already panting. I don't want them to hit the panic mode. I'm like, well, AEDs, we got the AEDs, we're ready.
They're hyperventilating, and they're like, yeah, I need some more time.
Exactly.
But it's true, though. I mean, that's true. That's very true. Because the coach is like, good, you're tired, run tired.
Yeah. No, so I want to get it down, closer to like, 100, 120, somewhere in that range. Then now they're full, close to fully recovered. And again, going back to time, use your timing to see where they're at on every round. So if they're constantly dropping off, either obviously they're fatiguing, we know that, but maybe give them a little more recovery. Think about it. You wouldn't go max bench press, rack the bar, and 10 seconds later pick it up and do it again. Sprinting is the same way. They have to learn to recover. And I know
Why?
it's hard because people stand around. Like, oh, they're standing around. I'm like, yeah, but they're recovering. It's same as the guy sitting on the bench on Instagram at the gym, right? It's the same deal.
So what? So, and I'm just curious. I mean, this is another just riff, but why is it that like, and we do see bad strength training. I'm not going to say that strength training is perfect, but I feel like coaches, athletes, like have a better grasp on strength training. Like they know they wouldn't do that for bench press. Like your analogy, right? They wouldn't do that for the bench press, but they would do that for their sprint. Why? Why
Because
do
they
you
can't. Everyone thinks they have to be conditioned, and yes, you do. Of course, you do. It's part of the sport. But if your goal, I always going to go back to what's your goal for the day. If your goal for the day is getting faster, then that's the goal. Then work towards that goal. And typically, most of these athletes, they're playing so much anyway. They're usually in pretty good shape, like condition wise. If they're playing on a slip, if your job is, hey, I got to get you in better shape, fine. And we'll spend a day doing that. We'll shorten rest periods. We'll extend distances. And going back to your question about tempos, that's where that can fall into play. But if your goal that day is pure speed, it has to be done with proper recoveries. If it's not, I'm telling you, they're not going to get faster.
You're just not doing anything.
And they might get hurt.
Yeah.
And now they're running in a fatigue state. I think soft tissue injuries occur sometimes there. So, and I know it's hard because then you see the kids standing around for 2-3 minutes, but trust me, they'll enjoy it if their times are getting better.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no one ever complains when they're winning. Okay. Did it hurt more when the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons or when you saw that Micah Parsons was going to the Packers? What hurt more?
It actually didn't hurt me that much.
It hurt me more that he was going to the Packers.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I don't like that he was going to the Packers, but I understood from the financial standpoint that he's getting paid a ton of money for a guy that could get hurt. And if you look at some of the DNs in the league, the DNs and tight ends get hurt. So, yeah, I miss him, but I think Cowboys have bigger problems.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Steve and I are the lone two Cowboys fans in a world of Giants and Jets fans and Steelers fans.
Yeah, I'm in New York, New Jersey, so I'm Jet and Giant country. But hey, through thick and thin, I've stuck with them. So sooner or later they're gonna turn around. But now, unfortunately, I brought my daughters into it. My two daughters are Sam and Maggie they're into football. We do a fantasy football league with some other dads and their kids, and it's actually a ton of fun. And they love football now, but they're just like, what's going on with the Cowboys? And I'm like, I'm sorry I did this to you. You know, and my Stan goes to school, college right outside Philly, so she's dealing with all the Eagles fans.
The worst.
She sits in her dorm sometimes, just locks the door because she doesn't want to deal with.
It's hard. It's hard. Did you watch the Cowboys, the America's Team documentary?
I haven't watched it yet. Everyone telling me, but I have not. I've been so busy. I did watch season 2 of DCC though.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that one. I didn't finish season 1.
By the way, I will tell people it's the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders on Netflix. I know it sounds crazy. It's fascinating.
It is. It really is.
What they go through. First of all, I will say those cheerleaders are insane athletes. Insane.
Yep.
The hours they put in. I mean, they get the heck beaten out of them. Like I've never seen.
They have very competitive backgrounds too. Like they're all like sick athletes alongside or just leading up to. I mean, that's the.
And they all train hurt. They work full-time jobs. They're doing this at night, 10, 11, midnight. I'm like, oh my gosh. I actually had a ton of respect for these cheerleaders afterwards. Not that I didn't before, but I was like, wow, they were going through a ton. I felt bad for a lot of them. I really did. You know, because how harsh the coaches were on them. You know, and I get it. Like it's DCC. That's premier cheerleaders in the league, but
for sure,
fascinating series. I have to admit.
Yeah, you will love America's Team. It will make you miss the 90s. As someone who was born when the Cowboys were good, or getting good, I should say. My first
that was the heyday for me.
Tony Romo. Yeah, it's so good. You're just gonna be like, oh, the 90s. But also, it just kind of reminds you just how cool the 90s were, just in general.
I'm lucky I was a
just how awesome the
high school, college kid. Yeah, because 80s, 80s I was a kid, 90s. Awesome. I got to experience the heyday of it all, but hey, it's Waco. Sooner or later, they got to get better, right? Sooner or later?
Yeah, so after Thanksgiving, when the Cowboys start to really let everyone down, just put on America's Team. Just watch. It's 8 episodes. It's like Last Dance level awesome.
That's what I've heard. A friend of mine who's a Giant fan told me, he's like, you have to watch it. You're going to love it. And I've just been so obviously busy with my new
You've been
role,
busy.
and
Yeah.
I've been getting home at night and doing work, and I'm on recruiting calls at night now, which has been so much fun to talk to these kids. To see the light in their eyes when you call them and you say, "Hey, we're interested in you," is pretty cool that I get to do that. I have to admit, it's been awesome for me.
Is that like an unrecognized perk, like that you didn't think was going to be fun?
Yeah, I didn't think it would be that much fun because you know what? I know, first of all, listen, I wasn't a collegiate athlete. No one, I never got a phone call. I never got an email, nothing, right? Or mail back in my day. And I just went through this a few years ago with my daughter who's running at college. And I remember taking her on visits and her talking to coaches and remembering how good it made her feel. And now that I get to kind of do that for other kids, it's been really, really cool. It's been really, really cool.
And then the parents look at you and say, "How much money are you going to give my kid?"
That's always
and then you get the other half. Where's the money?
Yeah, D3 is a different animal. But I will tell people, if people don't know, there is money in Division 3. It's merit-based scholarship. So here's my advice to every kid: grades get you paid. Grades get you paid. So if you have good grades, you're going to get money. And I have to admit, you're going to probably get more money sometimes than a D1 school. With the way things are now, with the scholarships and the roster limits, and Olympic type sports, swimming, track, or whatever, they're not jumping into that pool as much. So they don't have as much to offer. Football, basketball, different animal, but other sports don't. So, there's going to be more opportunities for athletes that want to run, say, at a Division 3 level. And listen, guys, it's competitive. Don't look at, you're D1, you're D3. It's competitive. I went to NCAA Nationals D3 last year. I felt like I was in Olympic trials. Some of the times these people were running, it was insane. Yeah. No, Division 1's better. I get it. I understand it. But I'll always say to the athletes too, what type of life do you want to live? Right? Do you want to be able to travel abroad? Do you want to be able to, study a difficult subject matter like the medical field, law, things like that? D3 definitely offers you a better area for it to do. You know what I mean? Division 1, it's a job now, right? They're being paid. It's a job.
So any parent, athlete, whoever listening to this or coaches, send this to your athletes, have them hit up Steve Leo at Fairleigh Dickinson in Jersey. Be like, "Yeah, I heard you on the Parisi podcast. It was amazing. I'm ready to come run for you."
That would be awesome.
Listen, I hope someday that happens. That would be amazing.
Listen, my goal here, they brought me in. I was so thankful and blessed that I got this opportunity. My goal is to make this a legitimate program. I'm 51. I said this in the interview. They said, what's your goal? I said, my goal is to run this out and retire at whatever it is, 65 or 68, and leave a legacy behind that this is a great track and field program. That's my goal. Not going to happen in year one.
Track coach.
Not going to happen in year one. But here's the deal, too. It's not for me. And it's never about me. It's for the kids. I want these kids to look back and be like, hey, I did some damage in college. And that's what I want for the kids. That's all I care about. So it's never about me. It's never about my accomplishments. I don't care about that. If I could see a kid smile, like last year, taking twice. We took 2 athletes to indoor, 1 athlete to outdoor. Having that experience of going to nationals and having the 1 athlete become an All-American as a sophomore, I will say I cried. Like I cried that day. To see what that kid accomplished was awesome because I just saw how it made her feel. And I'm getting emotional now talking about it.
No, we don't do that. No, we're not doing that on the pod.
I'm not Chad. But it just shows, this is what I say, it just shows you when athletes get opportunities, what can happen. I know we see it all the time. We watch ESPN 360 or whatever those 30 for 30s, but it's still real at this level. Like to give you the 30-second story about this girl was not recruited out of high school. Only started running track when she was a junior, former gymnast. Well, I love gymnasts for track. They're phenomenal. I get her. Mechanics were awful, but she had pop. Like definitely had some pop. Refined her. She started becoming a better sprinter. I said, you should try long jump. Like, did you jump in high school? Nah, my coaches wouldn't let me. I'm like, well, I think you should try long jump because we were doing box drills and she looked like a bunny rabbit, right? And I'm like, okay. Taught her how to do it. Goes to the conference championships, fouls all 3. Like doesn't even score. She was ranked 3rd. Goes to outdoor, has a decent run. I think she finishes like 8th or 9th in the conference. Last year, I got her. Said, okay, we're focused. We're going to work. We're going to get this done. Really took to it. First meet of the year, PRs. And it literally just was like every meet, boom, 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 it went up. Goes to indoors, wins the conference, sets the conference record in long jump. goes to nationals, finishes 16th overall at a 24, 22. Then we go to outdoor nationals, and she's going in 13th. And I'm like, all right, listen, just have a great day. Like, if you do well on the first flight, you got a shot at making the finals. The top 9 goes to the finals. She finishes second in her flight, jumps close to her PR. It's a cold, rainy day at the Spire Institute in Ohio. It's May. It's probably 45, 50 degrees. Like, it's cold and rainy. Like, not a great day.
Man.
But here's the what do you call it? The vig on this. I had her doing the Parisi warm up the whole time while she was waiting in between her jumps. All of the other girls were like this, shivering, and I'm just yelling to her. I said, I don't care if you're exhausted. You're gonna be warm when you jump. I said, you have to sweat. Somehow, thank God, in the second flight, a couple girls bombed out, fouled out. One girl got hurt, and I said to her before the last jump of the first round, I go, "You're making finals." She's like, "No way, I'm not making the finals." I said, "I'm telling you, start warming up now." Boom, it ends, and they announce it. She's in the finals, top 9. She goes in as 9th. Top 8 become All-Americans. Goes in. I said, "You got to nail 1. You nail 1, you're gonna be an All-American." Same thing. I'm like, just go warm up. All the kids are shivering. She's running around like a lunatic, dripping in sweat. Bang. It's I think she had an 18:10 or 18:11, which is close to her PR. I'll show you the video. I screamed the loudest I probably ever screamed because I knew that would secure it. And then they ended it, and see, All-American.
Boom. Let's go. That's crazy. Like 18 months.
It never did the event in our life. Never.
Yeah,
but I will say,
it's crazy.
One of the most coachable athletes I've ever had in my life. One of the most coachable athletes. Here, and this is the advice for the parents and the kids. When I would tell her to do something, when I say tell, it's called coaching, guys, because the kids sometimes don't like that. You know what her response was? Okay.
All right.
She wouldn't even ask me another question. I'm like, do this. Okay. Do this. Okay. And there were times I made mistakes as a coach. It was one me. I actually made a mistake with her. I screwed her up. I did something I shouldn't have done. I realized it later. And just so you know, as a coach, you need to do this. I went and I apologized to her the next day. I said, I made a mistake. I calculated wrong. And she goes, that's okay. But
wow,
you got to do that, though. But I'm just saying, so that's, guys, people on this pod, this is why I coach, to have those experiences. And you know what? She said, thank you for everything. I said, thank you for letting me come on this trip with you. It was pretty cool. I had a great time. I got to go to Ohio, and Division III, we're driving a van, no plane flight, but it's
not that long from Jersey.
It was like an 8 or 9 hour drive.
It's not that close. Yeah, not that close.
What people don't understand, like, if you're into sports, that's what I remember. Those are the fun times.
Yeah.
The long drives in a van.
Room, it's the bus rides. Yeah.
Stop and trying to find somewhere to eat. Like, last thing, like, after she won, it was late in the day. So by the time she got her medal and we got out, it was like 9 o'clock at night. We're doing all the pictures. And we're in the middle of nowhere in Ohio. We couldn't find anywhere to eat. Like, we want to go out and celebrate. We finally found near a lake house clubhouse bar that we went out to eat with because her mom had come, and we're out there having beers. And it was like all these local yokels and a bunch of these track kids, because a couple of our teammates came in, and everyone's looking at us like, what's going on? You guys look like you're celebrating something. And we just took the trophy and put it on the table. I said, well, she just became an All-American. Let's go.
And they all probably still talk about the night.
Yeah. But like I'm saying, so to me, like, that's what I think coaches need to always take a step back. That's why we do this, guys. It's for those feelings and those days. That's it.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? And even I remember the mom saying to me, she's like, wow, she got this beautiful trophy. She got this beautiful medal. She's like, you're her coach. What did you get? I'm like, I just got the memories, and they're pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Can't buy those.
The picture at the end. It's probably, is it on your desk?
Not yet. I'm actually getting it like blown up or whatever, but
that's what you got. Now you know. Yeah,
and I just said, for me, I don't need a trophy. Like, that's gonna stick with me forever.
For sure.
And I've had those, and everyone's had those experiences, but when you have them, just take a minute to really, really appreciate them and appreciate all your kids. And here's the thing too, not every kid's gonna do that. So appreciate the other kids as well that just need your help. The last thing I'll leave you with, I think you've heard me say this before, and I heard this again at a clinic. I steal everything, by the way, is, you need to judge your coaching on the progress of your weakest athlete. Just do that, and you'll have a great career, in my opinion.
Boom, baby. Parting words from a legendary track coach.
Close.